So with Survivor Series this Sunday, one question that gets asked every year, and I think I asked it last year as well, is why even go with this brand supremacy deal? Why go with the theme, can they coexist? It doesn't make sense, I mean, Survivor Series was good up to a certain point. You had bragging rights, that's fine. That was a secondary pay-per-view, an in-your-house level pay-per-view. That was enough to basically settle the storyline, question or issue of who was the superior brand. Here, WWE decides that instead of having that kind of pay-per-view kept around, they decide to take one of the big four originals and turn that into Bragging Rights 2.0. Now look, if you want to go the Raw versus Smackdown route, that's fine. But do it in a way to where it makes sense. Don't go with coexist. No, that's dumb. Because on paper and in the story, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. So what I would do, and I'm sure anybody else watching this would agree, if I would do, and hopefully some people with a sense of acknowledgement, in WWE's creative, would realize this eventually as well, Bruce, Kevin, and whoever else. Hopefully they realize this too, that if you're going to want to stick with Raw versus SmackDown, that's fine, but get one of those teams that represents Raw or SmackDown to be the baby faces and the others to be the heels. In other words, if you want SmackDown to be filled up with nothing but heels, guess what you do? You have all the heels that are going to face each other or face the baby faces in qualifying matches. Boom, 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 boom. You have them all basically cheat their way into the match. That's what you do. And with Raw, you could basically say have all the baby faces that are qualifying, boom, 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 win their matches, fair and square, or on a calculation by the heel or something. But if you're going to do it in a way where one side's the babyface, it's all babyface, I should say, and the other is the heels. Don't go with this whole can they coexist kind of deal, because it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Period. I mean, you have Sonya Deville. You have Sonya Deville basically taking out Aaliyah. You have her not wanting Naomi on there. You have her basically trying to fill up the whole thing with heels, with the exception of maybe Sasha and Natalya. And it's like, if you're gonna do that, why not just on the Raw side take out Carmella and Zelina, put in two baby faces there that you could probably get, and then fill up the other two sides with heels on SmackDown side, if you will, and there you go. It makes more sense. Because that way you have legitimate baby faces against legitimate heels. Not the whole coexist deal. The whole coexist deal doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because we all know it's just going to turn into, and God forgive me for saying this, it's going to turn into a clusterfuck. That's what it is. It's going to turn into a clusterfuck. Unless, creatively you have Adam Pearce and you have Sonya Deville separately talk to the different brands and say, hey, look, if you guys don't coexist tonight and you try to cause trouble amongst each other, you will be fired, or you will be suspended, or you're fined, or whatever. Put some kind of stipulation in there, some kind of punishment stipulation in there, as an incentive that there will be no shenanigans. That way, guess what? It makes sense. That, even though the heels and faces working together, the incentive that they have with each other, or in common, is they don't want to get fined, they don't want to get fired, they don't want to get suspended or anything like that. And thus, by having that incentive, they have no choice but to work together. If you don't put an incentive in there of some kind to make this, work sensibly, it's going to lead to nothing but a clusterfuck. And that's the truth. That is the absolute truth. Everybody that knows and seen Survivor Series over the past couple of years under this concept realizes that. The only time, I think a few times that it's worked, is when actually one of the brands has been mostly heels and the other has been faces, or mostly faces. That's when it's kind of worked, because that's a good dynamic to work with. The thing and the fact of the matter is this. This brand supremacy deal needs to end. You want to do it? Fine. Guess what? You have a pay-per-view called Day 1. on New Year's Day in Atlanta. Guess what you can do with that if you want to continue that as a New Year's Day tradition? You know what you could do? You could turn that into your bragging rights event, and in that way, the rule could be, in that way, the stipulation is whatever brand wins, they are the A show. They have bragging rights for a whole freaking year. And you leave Survivor Series alone. That's what you do. It makes sense because that way, if you put a bragging rights, theme to day one, you're incentivizing, you're doing an incentive for either Smackdown or Raw that whatever brand wins for a whole year, they can brag to the world and to the Raw counterparts, we're the superior brand, we're better than you. They can do that. I mean, I know that was still me to do right there, but still, you kind of get the idea. This whole coexist, ruling or situation, this doesn't work. It doesn't. And if you're going to continuously do that without an incentive of, hey, get along or else you're going to be punished in some form or fashion, like the ones examples I just used, or guess what? Go back to traditional Survivor Series. I'll give you an example. You know how this worked previously when you had separate brands? You had the baby faces of each brand working together. I mean, let's take a look at, let's say 2000, what was it, 2005, 2007, 2008, whatever it was. You had basically Triple H, a Raw guy, leading a group of baby faces consisting of SmackDown stars and Raw stars and ECW guys. And then on the other hand, you had Umaga leading a bunch of heels from ECW, SmackDown and Raw. And it worked. And people enjoyed it. Because that's what Survivor Series is supposed to be. You take heels on one side, you put baby faces on another. And it doesn't matter what brand. And to me, that's the directive they need to go in. And I know I said this last year. I know a lot of people said this last year. But this has got to be the last year they do this. It's got to be. I mean, yeah, you're going to be celebrating 25 years of Rock, or maybe an appearance by him, maybe a surprise one that we don't know of, which they're trying to keep under wraps. But still, it's like, why? It's like, hopefully, WWE wakes up and realizes this needs to end. Or heck, maybe they're smart. Maybe we're underplaying them. Maybe we're underestimating them. Maybe they're going to bring out The Rock as a surprise guest host of Survivor Series, and maybe Rock comes out and says, oh, no, this Survivor Series brand thing, it don't work with me because it don't make sense, so here's what we're going to do. And maybe he right there says, here's Bianca's team with all the baby faces of both brands, and then here's, Shotzi's team, of all the heels. It makes, if they do something like that, yeah, it would be a surprise, but, it also makes sense, because then, hey, guess what? The guy you want here the most, The Rock, is telling you, and you're allowing him to do so, hey, this is the direction you need to go in with Survivor Series. Nothing else. It makes more sense to do something like that. And if you're still insistent on going the brand supremacy route, you need to put a punishment as a stipulation to ensure that the participants in the match for each brand coexist and has no problems. That's what you need to do. And if not, this has got to be it. This has got to be the finito of this brand supremacy crap. And you either put the brand supremacy on something like day one, where the brand that wins that event has a whole year to brag that they're better, and then you just let Survivor Series be what Survivor Series is meant to be. And if you want a good example of what that could be like under a brand, like error, guess what? You have basically teams of baby faces representing all the brands against heels representing all the brands. Just like in 2007, 2008. It makes sense, makes more sense, that way logically and, storyline wise. Period. But what do you guys think? Do you think WWE needs to end this brand supremacy crap? Or do you think if they're insisted on doing it, that what they need to do is put a punishment of some kind as incentive to make sure that the participants' heels and faces do coexist? Or do you think maybe they should take the bragging rights deal, put it onto day one as a theme, so that the winning brand has a whole year to brag that they're better, and then just leave Survivor Series as it is, and then, take a page out of what we saw in 2007, 2008? What are your thoughts? comment below, live chat during the premiere, like the video. Check me out at BW Roses Discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check me out at BW Roses on VENMO. Also check me out at Patreon at BW Roses for, different tiers and awards there. And also check me out at VENMO if you want to donate in that area too. So until next time, guys, let me know what your thoughts are, and I am out.